Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new dual casting seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which the first time that we play a special card, we will also play a second copy of that card. That makes special heavy decks extremely powerful in this event, which is exactly what we're going to do today. So let's go take a look at the deck. So today we'll be playing a special heavy Scoia'tael Mahakam Forge deck that plays a bunch of elves that either help us play special cards and or recently got buffed in today's patch. So in round 1, we'll use a combination of Sorceresses of Dol Blathanna to create special cards, and Elven Seers to get additional copies of those special cards, and use either Orb of Insight to boost some of our cards and get some carryover value, or Bountiful Harvest to give us more units on the board and some hand boosting. Then we'll use Francesca to get an additional copy of Oneiromancy, and because in this event, when we play Oneiromancy, we'll get a second copy of Oneiromancy, it is very easy for Francesca to give you a third Oneiromancy on the same turn. Then we'll use Vanadain to put some of our remaining cards in our deck and replace them with Waylay. Then in between rounds, we'll mulligan those Waylays back into our deck, along with any Waylays we might happen to have drawn into, because this recently got buffed where it is now guaranteed to give you an Elven Deadeye. You no longer need the Death Blow, which makes it much more reliable, so that in round 3 we can have Johnny on the board in preparation for all the special cards that we'll play. Then use Simlas to play all of those Waylays, giving us tons of damage and giving us tons of Elven Deadeyes. Then finish with Toruviel, who also just got buffed, because if we have an Elven Deadeye on the board, she gets both of her abilities here, giving us tons of damage, as well as Vernossiel, who also got a provision buff, and assuming that we still have a lot of those Deadeyes on the board, playing her in the melee row will also give us tons of damage. And then just drop Harald Gord on the board for a big point slam. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, the overarching idea is to play a bunch of the special-centric elf cards, as well as many of the cards that just got buffed. How strong are they now, you ask? There's only one way to find out. So let's go see them in action. Alright, so going up against Scoia'tael here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have Francesca plus Oneiro, which is fantastic, because that means we can get a bazillion copies of it. Then the Lacerates are strong, but they are also potential targets for Simlas to play. However, Waylay could also serve that purpose, as could Orb of Insight. So let's get rid of maybe you. There is Simlas. Okay, so in that case, let's go with either Waylay or Orb of Insight, so we'll get rid of you. Okay, it's a Sorceress. So, of course, there's the chance that this is a bit of a mirror match here. And in the interest of shutting down that Sorceress, perhaps it would be best if we either went Dancing Star to outright remove it, or took a little bit of a chance with Bountiful Harvest and hope that we get some elves with damage to weaken the Sorceress to the point where she can't use her order ability anymore. Let's try that. And that is what we get here. That looks good to me. And, I guess you're preferable here. And then it's Orb of Insight. Oh, well, that's well done. In fact, that will be enough for that Sorceress to use her order ability for Nature's Rebuke, which, because it's the second special card that they played, they only use once. They aren't able to destroy any of our units here. Now let's get down an Elven Seer, and I am curious to see how many damaging special cards they have, because this could be bait for one of those damaging special cards, in which case it may become safer to play Francesca. No, they're going to go with a Seer of their own. So now we go Francesca, and we would very much like for her to stick around. Okay, it's a Force Protector, though. Yeah, she's not going to. Oh no, they're going for the Elven Seer, actually. Or some combination of the Elven Seer and Francesca. Now, that's silly. They definitely should have removed at least one of those cards, because now we're going to have time to have both of these triggered. They'll get their Orbs of Insight, but we're about to have something similar happen here, because now we're going to go Oneiro to get Vanadain. And with Vanadain, we're going to put these Lacerates back into our deck. That way, that gives us another potential Simlas target. It'll give us some Waylays in return. Our second Oneiro will trigger Francesca. And with this one, let's get a Sorceress down here. And then this is the third Oneiro coming from Francesca, which we could make either another Sorceress or Elven Scribe. Sure, we'll go Sorceress. We'll be a little bit aggressive here. Oh, and I thought we had some Orbs of Insight in our graveyard, but apparently not. I was expecting those to trigger and give us some boosts on the Sorceress and or Elven Seer. But now we can just use the Sorceress here, and I guess go Waylay. And get a whole lot of those. Tempering on you. Which means we get another one here, which means that is enough. So let's just throw you out. Because we can. And we'd like to save our Waylays, because now we've passed them. So we'll take the round 1 win, and we can put these Waylays back into our deck for a super Simlas combo in the next round. Okay, so we get 2 of our echoed copies for Oneiromancy. That's great, but let's dump the Waylays, because as I was saying, oh, well, we got a random Waylay, but we did play 1 more card than our opponent in round 1, so we're probably just looking to do a bit of a throwaway here with perhaps Bountiful Harvest, which is great, yes, but gives us some hand boosting, so that gives us a little bit of carryover value. So I think we go this route. And the Vernossiel Commander actually will get the chance to get boosted, since we are likely to only have Elves here. Second time round, I guess none of these are terribly helpful. Whisperer, if we were planning to play more cards, would be better. If we're not, then it is actually a little worse, but the plan is mostly just to play that and only that. They'll go Francesca. Oh. Well, we're definitely going to pass here and make that Francesca for naught, because maybe they'll play Oneiro and get an extra copy of it, but it's not really going to matter in this case. No, it's Orb of Insight. Okay, that makes more sense, since that does give them some carryover. Oh, except are they getting other Orbs of Insight that they had played in round 1? They did not want to trigger those here. Oh no, look at this. Yes, fantastic Orbs of Insight, but this is not when you want them to be triggering in a round that we were just throwing away. Okay, so now our plan is to put all these Waylays back into our deck, then use Simlas to play them all and spawn in a bunch of Elven Deadeyes, which means we can finish with Vernossiel in the melee row for a ton of damage. So let's get rid of the Elven Scribe, since we have Oneiromancies to play it if we would like to. And also, the whole part where I said we should put the Waylays back into our deck, I meant that we should probably put the Waylays back into our deck, which apparently now means that we are playing the Waylays from our hand, and instead using Simlas to play Lacerate. Which, I mean, sure, works, but was not actually what I intended to do. So before we start playing all these special cards, let's go with our Johnny. And at 8 power, he's relatively difficult to get rid of, but not impossible. So let's use our leader ability here, boost him up even further, and deal some damage in the process. Actually, enough so to remove Milva. And then it's Mahakam Defender, which with no boosts will not continue to get boosted. And because we have all these Waylays in our hand now, we might as well use them, and this is a great target for him, so we'll go after the Mahakam Defender, and, well, actually, don't even need the extra Waylay because the damage from Johnny is enough to finish off the Mahakam Defender. And then Bountiful Harvest into a Sorceress, and second time round into a Half-Elf Hunter. And this looks like another Waylay opportunity here. Actually, the downside of what happened last turn was that our second Waylay did not even trigger, so we didn't get an extra Elven Deadeye on the board, which would have been nice. We'll go after the Sorceress. And okay, Johnny's damage takes out the Sorceress. Now let's target the Half-Elf Hunter. And then it's a Whisperer, which is also a potential Waylay target until they use their leader ability on it. In which case, now we will still use Waylay, but we're definitely going to want to use it to take out this Whisperer, because that's the one that can still spawn additional copies, whereas these ones cannot. So let's take you out. And then I guess we'll just go for one of the other Whisperers. And then Shaping Nature. Actually, we might have wanted to get one of these Whisperers a little bit lower. Potentially set up a Dancing Star. Now let's go Oneiro, though. Into first an Elven Scribe. And then into Triss. And with her, Lacerate does look tempting. So would be Orb of Insight, though. Yeah, they don't have enough units out there to warrant a Lacerate, I don't think, so we'll go Orb of Insight then. And then it's Philavandrel with no hand boosting. But he'll get a Waylay. And they'll take out our Elven Deadeyes to give them some Elven Deadeyes. So now let's just use Mahakam Ale. That will give us some damage with Johnny and give us the boost on the Elven Scribe. They'll go Tempering. And what I really want to have happen is, again, to have some small units that we can take out with Dancing Star, and then have that damage continue on to other adjacent units, but their boosting has done just enough to stop that. But these are all our finishers here, so I think we may go that route nonetheless. Here are our Orb of Insights as well. Okay, then it's Dryad's Caress. And a second Dryad's Caress. That's not too much of an issue. Now let's go Vernossiel in the melee row. They did unfortunately take out several of our Elven Deadeyes, which means she's not going to give us nearly as much damage as she might have otherwise given us, but still better here than in the range row. And then it's Harald Gord for them. Usually you would save that for last, that is our plan. So let's go with Simlas here in that case. And with him, we could do Orb of Insight, which, to be honest, might not be a terrible idea since they don't have that many units for us to hit with Lacerate. Tell you what, I think I will. Not originally the plan, but I guess we can make that adaptation. And they'll trigger our other Orbs of Insight from our graveyard and give us some more damage from Johnny. Okay, so their last card is a Great Oak, which, if they had more units, would have been more significant. They are not even going to let us play our last card, which would have been Oneiro into Toruviel and Gord. Alright, so going up against Skellige here. And they'll go first. Okay, and we have a bunch of our weaker bronze special cards in our hand. Let's get rid of Waylay, because that may be a card we're going to want to use with Simlas. Oneiro is obviously a great pickup. Let's get rid of one of these Dancing Stars. Okay, they'll start with a Bear Witcher Adept, which we could take out with a Dancing Star, but maybe we get a little greedy and try going Sorceress of Dol Blathanna first. And they'll go Delirium, so that's definitely enough to take her out. That's perhaps a little bit overkill. Let's try using the Elven Seer here in that case. And then it's Moondust, so yeah, I was wondering how much damage they were packing. It is usually the way to go in this event, is load up with as many damaging special cards as possible. They have Matic, so that's very telling. They even had to damage their own card there with the second round of it. So in that case, let's use Triss, and we'll see if they have a specific bomb. Aw, darn, I was hoping to banish Matic. Alright, I guess we'll settle for Orb of Insight. Okay, then it's Fallblood Priest. I suppose makes sense next to the Adept. That'll get Knickers out as well. Now let's use Oneiro. Sneak in a Sorceress. As well as, sure, Johnny. And then, oh, well, and then Sorceress will get boosted by our Orb of Insight, making her more powerful on our next turn. So ideally, we would have saved Johnny, however, with our second Oneiro, we didn't have as many great options since I had several things I wanted to save for the next round. Okay, so tutoring into your raid tutor card Means you're only going to get one raid card, but you will get another unit from your second Royal Decree. We use Gutting Slash to get rid of Johnny. Okay, and then Coral gives them a little more damage. And we were hoping that Sorceress was going to remain unscathed. So now let's go Bountiful Harvest. And I like the Elven Seer here. Followed by, on the second round, I guess, of Riot Saboteur. Gonna save the Sorceress's ability because we've already used a special card on this turn. And remember, only our first special card that we play on our turn gets duplicated. Okay, then Armored Drakkar. Okay, will now become the card that gets damaged. So now let's get down an Elven Scribe. And then we'll use the Sorceress's ability. Ooh, and these are both tempting. I think I might do Bountiful Harvest to get another Elven Seer. Followed by, I suppose, another Elven Seer. Okay, then they'll go Vigo's Muzzle. Okay, it's well-timed on the steal there. I very much would like to have kept that Elven Seer, though, because I was very much looking forward to chaining a bazillion Orbs of Insight, which we can still do here. It's not going to be nearly as effective. And if we wanted to, we could get down an Elven Scribe first. In fact, sure. Let's do this. And then, in the interest of making sure that we pass them on this turn, let's use our leader ability here. I'm deliberately not going to target the Elven Seers because I would prefer to use Orb of Insight on them. Okay, they'll pass. It was actually kind of unfortunate, because we would have liked to have gotten the chance to use Orb of Insight to get a couple of extra copies in our graveyard that will eventually come out once we play more special cards later on. We are tied right now, but remember we'll get this Vitality proc from Triss, so we are safe to pass here, and win on even. Okay, so we get our 2 echoed copies of Oneiromancy, and then we get Vernossiel as well. We don't have as much in the way of Elven Deadeye creation here, so maybe we get rid of Dancing Star. And Lacerate is certainly strong, although it might be a potential Simlas target, so let's try getting rid of it. And getting another one. So we could opt to push here, if we wanted to, or we could force them to go a card down and give us double Lacerate in round 3. That is usually my preference, especially because that way we can make sure that we have a safe Harald Gord play at the very end of the round, when they don't have time to respond to it. So it's a Quartermaster here as their throwaway. Okay, and so Vanadain gives us the Elven Deadeye spawning that we're looking for to set up Vernossiel. And we could use Vanadain to put either both these Dancing Stars into our deck, or maybe this Lacerate. Let's try getting rid of some of these and see if we get Simlas, because that would change quite a lot. Toruviel, another card that would very much like to have those Elven Deadeyes on the board, so again, that means Vanadain, very helpful here. We could use an Oneiromancy to get Simlas, although that means that he's not going to duplicate the first special card that he plays. Let's try getting rid of the Dancing Star and see if we can get Simlas. Waylay. That probably does become a card we'd like to put back into our deck. Okay, so, well, let's actually use Waylay here, since Sarah is a nice and easy target for it. And that means we are definitely getting some Deadeyes. And ideally, we would have actually used Vanadain in round 1 to get Waylays into our hand, use our mulligans in round 2 or round 3 to put them back into our deck, and that way we could use Simlas for a ridiculous Waylay chain. Okay, they will get rid of our Deadeyes there. But of course, we do have, potentially, more sources of Deadeyes with Vanadain. And in fact, why don't we use him here? And what I'm going to do is put Lacerate back, which I'm anticipating that we will use Simlas to play, and then Harald Gord, because we'll use one of these Oneiromancies to get him later on. So it would be nice if Vanadain sticks to give us even more Elven Deadeye spawning, but if he goes down, it's not the end of the world, and he is very much going to go down. And honestly, our biggest issue right now is just that they're unitless, which means several of our cards here, including ones that we might want to get out from our deck, are not doing us much good at the moment. Because I would have Oneiro'd into Francesca plus Simlas, So I think we go Oneiro, Francesca, and then Oneiro, Orb of Insight, which is not the ideal target for that Orb of Insight, but we will get an extra copy of it with Francesca, which should pay dividends later on. She's just not going to get the additional vitality because she has Veil. Okay, then it's Johnny. Okay, so finally we have a target for our damage. Then Mardruim will give them some damage. So we don't have enough damage to remove him immediately, because this is a pretty big Johnny. But let's start by hitting him with some Waylays. That'll also give us some Dead Eyes, and also get these Orb of Insights to trigger. Okay, then it's Oneiro. Okay, into an on-crate longship. Not too worried about that. Remember, though, they do have Matic, so Northern Wind will get him out. That was the card that I was hoping we would have gotten earlier with Triss, so that we could banish Matic altogether, which would have been amazing. So now let's go for another round of Waylays, and we could either continue to hit Johnny, which would not quite be enough damage, or we could go after the longship, which would be enough to remove it. So maybe we do that. Okay, then it's Armor Up. We'll give them a little bit of damage, and a lot of units, including some Invisible Witcher students. So now let's go with another Orb of Insight. Okay, then it's Ermion, which they'll use to play a Swallow. Give them some more boosts. Now let's do Toruviel, and because we have Elven Deadeyes on the board, that means that we'll get both of these abilities. And their last card is Shoop Stay Off. That is an odd finisher, but we'll see what direction they go in. It is probably not the usual Resilience play. It's damage. And it's boosting. Okay, so they have a big lead on us, but remember, we have double last say here. So let's start with Oneiro into Simlas. And with him, Dancing Star is actually not terrible, given how many low power cards they have here, but I'm assuming Lacerate is still preferable. And then second time round, we'll get Harald Gord, since we played so many special cards, so he's going to get a big boost. Think the range row is still the ideal target, although this time round, it's the melee row. Then it's Gord. Then that triggers our Orbs of Insight as well. And so that means we are already good here. Of course, we could also play Vernossiel in the melee row to deal damage based on all of our Elven Deadeyes. Ideally, would have had even more damage if they had not destroyed as many of those Deadeyes as they did, but no need, because we've already taken the win. So there's a look at a Scoia'tael deck for the new dual casting seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.